All right, so Bolt released a new tool just in the nick of time that really saved me. I hit some massive roadblocks in trying to get mapping working. So it's quite hard to do two things I've learned with AI code generators: retrofit existing code,
Mm-hmm.
and the second thing is do things that aren't direct, like coding a mapping application is like sort of two steps removed from what the output is,
Mm-hmm.
whereas like coding a button is direct. It's like you write the code, the button shows up, the button looks wrong, and the bot goes, I'll change the button. But
Mm-hmm.
to fix the map, the you've got to change the map and then let the map render in a way that you don't understand, and then yeah, like it's just I explained that poorly, but it's really hard. So what Bolt introduced today is finally the ability to connect up to a GitHub repo and stay in sync. And
Ah.
so what I was able
Mm-hmm.
to do was I was able to use Concat and Cursor on the code base to solve some of the hard problems that Bolt couldn't, whilst letting Bolt do the stuff it's good at, like the UI stuff and all that.
Ah.
And it actually writes really thoughtful commit messages. Like um, these are its commit messages,
Hmm.
and they're sort of nice, simple one-liners uh, that make sense, and it's great. I can sit here and see the diffs of what it changed and all that. So anyway, that's been great. I managed to get. So this was the app I got going, which is it's nothing artifact like, except for the fact that it's the data structure matters. So this is
Ah.
just how
How are you
to.
store? How are you storing those irregular
You mean
polygons? Or
a polygon? So they're
mm,
stored in a format called GeoJSON.
mm-hmm.
Um, and what this does is it lets you can edit the
All right.
polygon
Yep.
and then save it. You can change the color. You
Oh,
can draw new
that's
ones. Da 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 da. all,
yeah.
all the good stuff, right?
Oh,
So
that's nice. That's nice.
yeah, not so trivial to implement. I found,
No,
but
no, I'd imagine.
and then you can download the JSON because it's not hooked up to Artifact yet. But um, yeah, that's where that is, and that's used for doing point and polygon detection to determine which truck route a customer belongs in.
Yeah.
So that's all it is. I think that the mapping's useful everywhere, right? Like we've talked about putting stucks in a geolocated area and having all kinds of other updates on maps. So
Massively so.
yeah,
Yeah.
so that's good in that regard. I'm glad to have the Bolt tool, but I really want to have our platform up because I'm starting to see a pattern in a lot of these UI or, or or AI coding tools is that none of them are multi-headed or multi-versed. Like I'm having a chat and it's building me one version, one step at a time. It's not building
Mm.
like five concurrent versions that might mean different things. It's not exploring out different ways to do it, right? Whereas that I think is starting to show as one of our core features that we want to land is parallel threads.
Yeah, the difficulty with parallel threads, of course, is that a decision in one thread might impact halfway through the thinking of another thread.
Yeah, and those are all fun problems to solve. But even just a crude one is to say, well, if I give it an instruction and then it goes off and makes 5 different attempts to do it, and then selects the best of 5, that's already a higher quality version than just the one.
That's true. And actually, you could simplify that further to give me 5, and I'll tell you which is the best one.
Either way, right? And then you'd sort of
Yeah.
come back and you'd be able to just flick through the versions where these things would just fire up on the screen for you, and you're like, don't like that, don't like that, don't like that. Oh, that's good. And then you sort of, like the bots sweat and toil for you, and you just come in and sort of pick away at the
Yeah.
surfaced result.
I mean, what would, I don't know if you've tried this. I've tried it with a cut and paste method, which is what I call pick and mix. You got 5 runs, 5 subtly different runs, and you say this one's right. Number 1 is right at 1.3. Number 2 is right at 2.5, or whatever. Pick and mix and merge.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's quite a toil to do by hand.
Yeah. So I think that StackBlitz, by way of its technology, is always going to be single purpose. Cursor is sort of naturally single purpose. Yeah, it's not. It's multi-threaded seems to be an area that we're not really seeing a lot of competition to. So I'm pretty keen to get that up and running.
Yeah, and we've talked about quite a bit. That really comes down to voting logic and what we previously called judges and so on.
Yeah, but either way, like those just become stucks that you can play with. Now, one of the things that bothers me immensely is I'm still not quite sure how to make a lot of the apps that we talk about or the services. And so I managed to book a call with Ben to try and go through some of that, where we go through and design different apps. It'll be great to do it with you as well. But it's because I'm kind of worried that I'm like, it feels like I might have missed or lost something along the way, because, now I need to figure out application architectures and good patterns, and I'm just feeling a bit fuzzy about them.
Yeah, because now you're going into application patterns inside of an app, where we really should be thinking about the architecture around how to make applications.
Well, yeah, but that's fine. I mean, it's the best way to do that is to just try and make some apps, and then learn from that rather than try and guess it first.
Yeah, exactly.
I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. But the point I was making is these are all point solutions, but the first point solutions need to be sweated out. Can I just clarify what you mean by a service?
Any of the things that we talk about delivering, like the medical clinical trials thing, some of the autism things, like basically all of these, everything we've ever thought that we could build on this platform, I think we need to start actually doing some of it, at least sketching it out.
Right. So by that, I read a NAP or a hierarchy of NAPs, which can be wrapped up.
Yeah.
Produces some kind of output. That's a service.
Yeah. And so, like, one of the ways I sketched out today was like, well, okay, I want to host email on the platform. What's the best way to structure the file system for doing that? Right. And so then it's like, well, should the user treat the whole app as one repo, or should they be able to have a repo that has one app per branch? And it sort of looks to me like it makes the most sense to have one repo per app, just because otherwise it can blur the lines a lot when you've got different apps running on different branches.
Yes,
So
I agree with that.
it's all those kinds of decisions that we need to say no on, because you don't have to have it one app per repo. You could have it per branch or per folder within a branch even, but there's payoffs, there's trade-offs to be made there.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but yeah, look, I was pretty pleased with the way that email sort of held together as a model. Um, yeah, I guess I'm in the mode of just tinkering around with a bunch of different things that we've spoken of in the past, and I just would, yeah, like to hear that from you a bit.
Um, would it be helpful because I've got bucket of specific end use cases.
Right, yeah, that's pretty useful.
Um, I
That's
mean,
very useful,
we're
actually.
talking about the medical guys. That's an obvious one. We've got the stuff in Kenya. We've got the stuff at TFU. Um, all of these, if we had, if we were to back in what they've already done into it, ingest it in some way,
Yeah,
and then um, a lot of these guys, maybe not so much the Kenya guys, but the other ones, I think, are in the mode where it can be dirty, as in they don't mind if it doesn't work.
right. Yeah, well, I
Um,
guess, like the main thing is that the repo stuff works, and that's pretty reliable, I think. But it's also very simple. And so if you find a fault, we'd really be talking like, is it a fault with the Git protocol, with the way that I've implemented it here? Is it a fault with performance? Like, is it a caching issue? Is it and, like those are just, those feel like, there's no new problems there. Like that's all. It's like, well, the issue I have, Scott, is this repo structure. I think it solves all our problems, but it also can't be anything else as well is the issue. So I'm like, there might be some lateral movement that I can like, jimmy some stuff around or come up with some sort of a neat solution to something. But my fear is that the repo structure has landed. It appears to solve all our needs, but I'm not sure and I can't change it. And I'm like quite nervous to figure out if it's sufficient.
yeah, but your anxiety is, sorry to be abrupt, by the by. Um, what we need to do is to
That's
use it.
rude.
Sorry.
Yeah. Well, yes and no. Like using it takes time. Skimming it, theorizing about broad cases is cheap in comparison, and so that's, I think that's the thing I'm trying to.
I'll probably meet you halfway there. I think you can theorize about what's missing and whether fundamentally there's a problem or whether fundamentally this is rock solid.
No, I didn't mean that in terms of theory. I mean theory as in theoretically use it. Like pick a bunch of use cases and then like theorize how we would use it, and then hoist the problems up.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. Uh, alpha, basically. It's
Yeah.
like because it's a lot easier to theorize about how you'd use it when you've actually got something to, you know, use that
Yep.
nobody's relying on.
Yep.
Um, nobody's spending any money. Um, because doing it in a vacuum is just like,
Ludicrous.
yeah.
Um, so I made some of those changes to the mock-up that we're talking about. Like innovations is what it's called now. Um, yeah. It honestly, I went over our last call and I was like, yeah, everything kind of makes sense. Um, so I guess I'll just hook it up.
Um, yeah. The sooner that you can get a portal that I can start throwing stuff in.
Stuff in. What kind of stuff?
Well, there's 3 projects immediately that we can throw in. I guess the problem is it would still be you and I, until it's at a stage that we could.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah.
So tell me. So using this interface, tell me how you would throw in the first project. Are any of those projects ones that you can talk about on camera here?
Yeah, sure. One is an obvious one, which is the CRM for the leads that we are in the hopper for going in the Dreamcatcher.
Okay, so I would imagine that I would go into repos. I would make a new repo called CRM or leads pipeline.
Yep.
I would set it to be, would it be an org or would it just be, no, sorry, I'd make a repo called the Dreamcatcher org.
Yep.
And that's what we would be a part of, I think. The repo is called Dreamcatcher. I'd be like, make this an org. Bang. Okay, I go into Dreamcatcher. I make a child of Dreamcatcher. If you just imagine that part, I call that the leads pipeline.
Yep.
But actually, I would call that leads pipeline development because we got to make the app first. So this is where we code the naps for the pipelining. Okay, and then that's where we write the code, which does something like sets up a folder structure for how the data is going to be stored. It might have some services that it consumes, like a scraper or something like that. And then we'd make a repo that was a child of the Dreamcatcher. I'd go new repo, and I'd call that pipeline instance.
Mm-hmm.
And it'd be like, this is the and so it would pipeline instance would pull its code from leads pipeline development, which would be publishing into the NAPS registry, where the NAPS registry is this thing here.
Mm-hmm.
And then inside pipeline instance, I would uninstall the code formatter because I don't need it.
Mm-hmm.
I would install how do I install a NAP? Huh. I'm going to install the it would be the pipeline toolkit.
Mm-hmm.
And then pipeline toolkit, I go into the naps of the repo that I was in, pipeline instance. And if you imagine that it works, because it doesn't, but somewhere in here would be pipeline instance, and then it would be running, and then that's how you...
Right, and when we got the pipeline instance up, by pipeline, it would be what you'd imagine from a usual CRM. It's like,
yeah,
early, and then detailed negotiation, and then
right.
in, I don't know, wording, but it would need some way of taking in transcripts, notes, scraping email, scraping text, perhaps.
Right. And so those things would go, there would be naps that did scraping, and they would be connected up to the source of the scraping, and then they would be able to use one of the NAP actions to push data into the pipeline, which would trigger some of the processing. Different members of the org, different entities could hook up to those feeds and get notifications.
Yeah, and then there would also be probably a background agent indexing it, because quite quickly that could get quite large. And so you'd
Right.
want some kind of keyword indexing, and the keyword indexing would therefore point to the need for a set of definitions. So another agent to say, hey, you've just talked about ice cream, right? Here's what I understand about ice cream, and this is, this is now canonical until you change me. And then when it goes wrong, you've got something hard to go back to with definitions. Ice cream is actually made of ice and cream. I don't actually know how you make ice cream. But you can tighten it up when it gets it slightly wrong. And then cursor-like, there'll be another mode where you say, right, I want to take, for example, everything that's happened in the last week, and I want for you to tell me, as in the AI, tell me what are the most burning problems? Was I asked for anything that I haven't done? Or consider everything in the last year. Are there any synergies between these? Go off, burn a few tokens, come back. That's that sort of thing inside of the CRM. And now this is the CRM itself. The pipeline is just an example of how to use this, but it's actually quite a good example, because what it's dealing with deals with definitions. It deals with incoming data, quite a large amount of data. Therefore, it deals with indexing, which means it deals with background processes.
Right.
And
Yep.
because you've got agents, then it also implies the need for agent testing. It's like, have you just broken something, or has someone else just broken something for you by releasing a new model? And that sort of thing. I think we could probably get about an 80% just with the CRM, to be honest.
Yeah, well, that's sort of why the trucking guys were of such interest to me, because, their one app done in the Dreamcatcher way covers most problems.
Yeah. And from the Lego bricks you've got and have built, it should be possible to get certainly that first layer that we just talked through.
Right. All right. So let me just take a minute to digest that. The ease with which we walked through that pretty much end-to-end covers all bases test case would imply that the most important things to make are the tools that make the tools. Because how do I make each one of those features you asked for in the pipelining thing? They need to be tested and refined and using evals on to make sure that the AI agents are performing correctly. So it's like, how ideally we want the Dreamcatcher to be a place where you can come and you can chat up an agent without really doing any coding or anything too technical, and you muddle your way along, and it helps you build this well-tested unit, which is this agent, and then that's the thing you install, right? That's kind of the first tool we should make, it seems, because
Yeah, I agree.
you're gonna use it every single time. So, yes, I could make the pipeline thing with you, but it's better to make the thing that makes the pipeline thing, and then you can go off and just chat about the features you want.
Well, here's a practical step there then, because I'm pretty confident that I could use the old traditional cut and paste different threads and that sort of thing, to get a bot that does that. Create tools. But what's the target static thing that says, right, now this we have a tool that makes tools? So to be more precise, I'm pretty sure I could get a thread together that would do that, but then how to store that thread statically.
Yeah, that's a nap. Like it would be packaged as a nap.
Right. So there needs to be a translation step. So it doesn't. When I've been doing this before, it was actually quite fun. You'd mess around with it and saying, right, I want you to do this. I want you to do that, and then you get, no, that's not right. That's not right, and you end up with a big thread. And but then you just have a thread. It's like, well, I need that to be more than this massive thread that I've
Right.
just talked
You need
you
it to be a template almost.
yeah, or something static, and translating it into the NAP perhaps is a precursor to that,
Right.
because I've got a number of instances where I've got to a point with a thread saying, you're doing exactly what I told you to do, and what I told you to do was exactly what I meant. But it's
Right.
then just hanging around as a thread.
Right. When you're at peak thread, but you really want to distill it down. So as a side note that is relevant, OpenAI released a new thing today. Oh dear.
Oh God, I've only been up for 4 hours.
Keep up, Max. I'll keep up.
I'm just waiting to see what happens on Red Square.
What's Red Square?
Oh, it's May the 9th.
What?
It's the big parade in Moscow.
Oh, the one that the drones were going to bomb, that one.
I don't know, I'm just very curious about what happens next.
Okay. So, this is today's goodies. Reinforcement fine-tuning.
Okay.
Now, reinforcement fine-tuning is the ability to train reasoning models. And it's not training them like I like that output or I didn't like that output. It's about saying I like your thinking, and it strengthens the way that the bot thinks about the problem.
So presumably some kind of post reasoning, then it considers, maybe it's not just post, maybe it's pre, I don't know, but it's considering your previous interactions. But
no, it's more like you're what I think you're trying to do is you're trying to make a thread, and then you're trying to use some tools to tease it out into either a mega prompt or a system prompt or a fine-tuned model that will do what you want. Right?
Precisely. Yeah, and then you can rely on it as a nap.
Yeah, and it will always act that way. And just because your thread's working the way you expect it doesn't mean that with a slightly different problem it wouldn't behave wildly different. So
that's right, which is why another nap would be the kind of guardrails.
Right. And so in a way, because of the fact that humans without any skill in programming can use one of these threads that you're talking about and say what's wrong with it, like 10 people using a tool in their 10 different ways and correcting it, you probably hit, 80% of the population would want the same thing.
Yeah. There's something that seems universal, is that inside of everyone there's a bit of a Karen who's very comfortable saying what's wrong.
It's easy. It's almost like the universe was made to favor. It's like falling downhill is way easier than climbing up.
Yeah. And the opposite of that, of course, is the horrible emptiness that is the blinking cursor. I'm just waiting on you telling me something. It's easy to edit. It's very difficult to create. And
you mean like the blank piece of paper versus the
Yeah,
starter
yeah,
for 10.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's like okay, um, and that seems pretty universal, and it's actually almost enjoyable, especially when you hit a groove with a thread.
Mm.
I got many
Yeah, so
instances
I guess
of
that
this.
would end up being we'd lift up some stucks. Like when you got a thread the way you wanted it, you'd throw up a stuck that was like, here's my thread. Can someone please make it into a reusable nap? And
Well,
then
yeah, and this is that second order stuck that I mentioned. Is like, well, I've got this fine tuned, lovely thread. Um, Now just turn it into something. Now the thing that turns it into something is itself probably going to be fine tuned through a thread,
yeah,
and
yeah,
then
yeah. So I mean, you'd start off as a human and you'd have a go at it, and then we'd be able to make a thread or a bot or a nap that
yeah,
could do
but
it much
it's like
better.
turning into something semi-static that can be
Right.
tested.
Like almost like compiling or
Yeah, yeah.
distilling.
Actually, that's a good way to put it. It's like compiling a thread into an
Right,
app.
right, right. Right, and then it would come in with a set of standard tools and standard tests. It'd test it against prompt injection. It would try to, break it, and you'd end up with a very well
Yeah,
rounded
mm,
thing. And you're like, this is my agent for something, something, right?
yeah, yeah. Now you got a process that creates naps through agents, which in themselves should be naps.
Right, so it's a process for refining agents, using agents. And whenever you want to get a job done, you're like, here's an agent that sort of does what I want. I wish it to be slightly different. And when you finally get it to do what you want, you push it out to have these tools crush it down into something static and
Yeah,
repeatable and
yeah,
reliable, which then goes into the store. And then as others use it, you can earn returns for it as well.
yeah, precisely.
Okay, that's
So,
cool.
how proximity wise, how complex is that? As in, it'd be lovely to have that today because I would be using it today and generate naps like no one else has ever generated naps. Um, but is the this is the lovely, beautiful tip of the iceberg bit.
So
Is
you'd
there?
be so you'd be in a chat like this, and you'd be like, chat, 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 chat. Okay, it's great. And then you would go, how would you launch a stuck? You'd
Well,
go,
it's not necessarily a stuck. You could
well,
say
you want to
you get
make it static, right?
yes, you
Yeah,
get
and
to the
there,
point on the thread and saying right, even save this as an app, and you don't really care, but what you want to do is 2 weeks later come back, call that nap, and effectively get the same result that you got with this nicely tuned thread.
right. The reason why I say it needs to be a stuck is because there is no tool to do that for you. So where we are today, you would create a stuck about it, and the stuck would contain a link to the chat,
Yeah.
and
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and then
Yeah.
you'd work away on it. I don't know how, but then you'd end up with this tool. Now, this tool, then you would then, I imagine, expect to be able to have this chat, and then you want like a button or a something that says bundle or compile or something like that. That
Yeah. Create an app or
right,
whatever it is.
right.
Yeah.
So I think what you'd do is you'd have this chat, you'd go into the installed naps, and then you'd find the action that was compile, and then you'd go bang, compile, and then that's what would trigger it off. Be like, nap 2 has compiled successfully or
Yeah.
something,
And then
right?
it's got a description of what it does and any further thread inside of that repo can discover that and use it at will.
Oh, poor Will. Okay.
without you having to remember the name of the NAP, which is a big one with me because I can never remember file names.
Okay, it's still, that all sounds doable, but still a little fuzzy to me. So I think I can see how to get you to the place where it's a stuck has been launched that has that request, like, hey, make this something static. I'm not exactly sure how to integrate it in, but that sounds like we don't need that integration for our first version. We add that integration using the stuck loop.
Oh, yes. And also remember, because we've defined the format of NAPs, at the worst would be a cut and paste. Because
Sorry?
what you could do is at the end of the thread saying, okay, as long as the thread wasn't too long, here is the format of a NAP. I want you to summarize the process that we've just agreed on into this format. So you could do it manually.
Okay, I don't want to get stuck on how to do that exact thing, because I feel like that the thing you're asking for is valuable, essential, and is one of the first things we should do, but it is not required for the stuck loop.
No, the stuck loop is just asking, well, is stating that I would like this thing that
Right.
I've just done
I'm stuck.
to be created. No, you're absolutely right. The stuck loop is just a request for a NAP, right?
Not even that. It's not even a request for NAP. It's a request for some kind of state change. You're like,
right. Yeah, that's more precise.
And that's kind of what that's what I'm trying to get at. I know that I was asking for examples of applications so that I could understand more about the system. Fuck, I just dropped a whole bunch of stuff on the floor. Whatever. But I also want to make sure that we're doing the right like, I don't want to be stuck on stucks. I want just enough platform to process stucks, because
which is the prerequisite of what we just said, which I agree with. So the base layer is providing the information around a NAP that once that stuck is once that innovation is solved, it becomes something that can be called upon.
Yeah, so the essence of the stuck loop is the ability to snapshot the state, i.e. snapshotting across multiple repos for their exact state, where you're like, this is the state when the problem occurred.
Yep.
The ability to advertise that stuck, the ability to attempt a solution, and then lastly, the ability to integrate the solution into the environment or into the current state. And that's installing NAPs is the way to integrate a solution. There are some other, there's a weird class of solution which would involve a pull request against the, say, for example, the UI code here, or against the artifact code, because you needed to change some property to allow the solution to a stuck to be integrated more deeply than just this modular NAP install uninstall thing. So there's that class of problem, but I expect those will quickly sort of...
Isn't that just a specific of the more general of context? If you include the definition of a UI, you're trying to do something you can't because there's not a button to do it,
right,
and you've got a thread that's stuck because you have the context of the UI.
Yeah, I suppose, right? Yeah, there's nothing. This is not the blessed UI. There is nothing really special about this UI. It's just like any other. Yeah. And so all it's doing is it's executing a running version of a repo, a commit, a specific commit in a repo is being executed.
Yeah.
But in the most problems we expect to be solved by the pluggability of natural apps. So any UI that can handle searching for naps and adding them in should be able to adapt in almost any way, or in a very large number of ways that will probably solve most problems. That's what I'm sort
Yes,
of
I
picking.
agree. So I agree that the prerequisite is being able to state stuck, which is the context.
State of stuck.
second,
Yep.
Yep. The second is to be able to resolve that stuck into an app.
Or a change
The
to an app.
or change. Yep. The third order of business, I think, in terms of what we need to solve, is getting the effectively unit tests on that, which will probably require human interaction in terms of no, that's what I asked for, but that's not what I meant.
Some feedback. Yeah, but that's all
Yeah.
just nuances within the same stuck loop.
Yeah, but the that stuck nap cycle is as important as the human interaction. The innovation in terms of the human is okay. Here's what I want, and we've got an app, and it doesn't quite work right, which will generate stucks, referring back to the naps as part of the context,
Yep.
and possibly the original context that created that nap. And then there's the tests around, well, if the model's just changed and now it's broken for whatever reason, or if you want to have anything more complex than a single naps interacting, that interaction is probably going to be complex. And so if one nap changes, you also want... This is I'm just stating as stuck here. I've just realized this is
Yeah, that's the thing, dude. You just
Yeah. This is another stuck. This is a third order stuck.
that's what I'm getting at. Like it's like the stucks are free form. You can do
Yep.
everything you said there with just this primitive stuck repeated upon itself.
So maybe the very simplest version of the stuck, or the first step in the stuck, is saving the context.
Yeah, which is just a commit. It's just a commit and maybe a
Right.
filter or something on it, and you're like, or it could be a collection of repos. We're like, this repo at this commit, this one at this one, and this one at this one, and at these file paths, and that's the stuck. Bang.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can add bells and whistles on that, saying, here's what I intended, and here's an example of a what would expect the output to be.
Yeah, right. You can chat away about it, and that's so. In this UI, you would do that under the innovations tab, where you would find your particular stuck, where you're like, I have customer data not syncing. So you'd go into there, and then you'd start editing away with. You'd attach different examples, like if you kept doing it. You would say more about what you wanted it to do. You might attach some voice recordings or some voice notes or a meeting you had with someone. Some
Contraindications are really useful. It's like, do not do this.
Yeah, and then but that's all just
Context.
stucks, context for the stucks, and then an intelligence like me or you or a bot come in and look at that and they're like, yeah, I think I can fix that in this particular way. Doesn't have to say what. It could be going back to the user and being like, take the caps lock key off.
Yeah.
Or it could be, doing a patch on a stuck, or it could be trying to formulate a new stuck, a new nap.
Yeah.
So, or changing some of the configuration in the way that it's installed. Like, it's free form at that point. But the key is this context snapshot is vital, because GitHub is just littered with just all this painful semantic information that's like not enough information to fix it. And I don't know if this guy's talking crap or what. And it's like, like it's too hard for a bot to get in
And
there.
there's the rabbit holes. If you look at Reddit, it's like, oh, I've got this problem, and then 3, 4 down, someone's talking about something completely different.
Yeah, right. So all those issues, and we're saying that we're going to use AI processing to eliminate that. But the key difference between GitHub and this system is that we're naturally everything everywhere can be part of the context. There's no box to put you in. The context can be as broad as you like, and it's always faithfully reproducible. So your chance of solving it are massively higher.
Yeah, and again, harking back to analogy we had months ago, if you had 1,000 really deep experts calling in one and saying, here's my problem, I would describe the problem to you, go and fix it. They go off, fix it, come back, now we've got an app. And you look at it and going, oh shit, no, I didn't ask for that. Okay, what I meant, sorry. What I meant
Yeah,
was
you learn more
this.
about it. You learn more about it each time something new comes
It's
back.
easier to edit than have a flashing cursor in front of you with a blank sheet of paper.
Yeah.
Much easier to edit.
Yeah. So I guess if I wanted to work on a particular stack, I would fire up the context in a new repo or a branch of just some test throwaway repo that I made, and then I would sort of tinker around with it. I might make it easier for the next guy to reproduce, or I might, I'd learn more about the problem, and then ultimately I'd be looking to publish back to the NAP store, or by pull requesting against the NAP. And in its full-fledged form, I would expect that the NAP was being managed by an AI project manager that looked at the pull request coming in and gave you instant, like, yep, that's better, or no, hey, don't do that. And so you never get projects stalling.
Right. It's yet to be seen about what the fork rate is. But then that's another stuck about dedupe.
That's right. I think all of our problems can just become these stucks, and then that allows us to make a tool that can prioritize and process them for us. Like, we have a lot of stucks, but which is the most important? I'm not sure we are the best ones to gauge that. Like if I was able to choose, I'd probably go for performance tuning of large numbers of Git objects in the database. But honestly, no one really cares at this point. So maybe that's not it.
It's all the same, isn't it? You could equally make the argument that a heat map is a context based on a very large number of stucks that can be inferred by the depth of heat on our webpage.
Right.
And then you can point something at that as a coherent set and saying, okay, we need to make the button orange, or whatever.
All right, so it sounds like we could feasibly, if I populated the backend onto this UI, we could use this UI to categorize and work on all of the other, to manage our work, basically, to stuckify.
I agree. I think we're really close. If you get the back end hooked up, then we can get to that first order stuck context. Yeah.
The first round of like context snapshotting, and like, here's the stuck.
Yeah. And then we could add notes and that sort of thing. And then as part of that, you do the cut and paste thread contexty thing in order to get something, an agent that goes from structs to a proposed NAP format.
What? You mean stucks to a pull request of some kind?
No, going from the context of, hey, I've got this thread and it's working.
Oh, you're
Sweet.
talking about your compiling problem.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
compiler. Yeah,
Right. Yeah. Okay.
But the compiler is also a stuck because
That's right.
you do that by hand through a
That's
thread.
right. That's right. That's right. So what do we got? We got permanent storage, the ability to make revisions on that storage, to merge in changes to that storage. We've got applications that can execute code as well as AI code or inference, classical code and inferred code.
Yeah.
It's secure. It's fast enough. It's isolated, so each, we've got a good unit of isolation in the repositories plus the branches within. We've got logins. We'll attach some money because it's going to cost you when you talk, and we're going to allow you to put money against innovations.
Well, even money against innovations, that is another stuck that's waiting to be solved.
Yep, that's right. Okay, so all right, so it's sort of narrowing down pretty hard here. So basically the repo with its files, a way to publish naps and install naps, a way to publish stucks and solve stucks, and a way to log in and identify yourself. And then we can do anything.
That's kind of it, isn't it? It's like
Sure.
Log in, and now I am a repo.
I am a repo. I am an agent, but actually you're an agent, and you're operating a repo, and that's the model. I think
that's more precise. I'm trying to do something as like, hey, okay, right, got it. Right, there's stuck because there's no nap, but there's context. Okay, where am I going to put the context? Okay, so we've already got somewhere to store the context. The next thing would be the compilation step into a nap, so that I didn't need to re-ingest the entire context, which quite quickly will get out of hand. All I need to do is to make my current context aware of that nap by being in that repo, which is publication of the nap. And that's kind of bootstrapping up.
That's all you need, right? Like, no, you can't. If you took away one of those components, you wouldn't have a working system because the stuck loop would be broken.
Yeah. And then once you got a nap, that nap becomes part of the context, which could be therefore part of a stuck, which then therefore part of a new nap, or an alteration to an existing nap. Then quite quickly the complexity is going to be at a level where we need some kind of unit testing or multi-model, but those are also context, which are naps.
Yep.
Context,
stuck, solution, upgrade.
So it's I think a stuck is basically a snapshot of a context.
It includes it, but it includes some extra information because the context alone is insufficient. The stuck needs to say something about the context that it's talking.
Oh, the intent.
Yeah. And then, but that's it. So the stuck. So I think there's only 3 components. There's the storage / execution environment. Then there's sorry, I'll start again. There's the Git file system. the execution of naps upon that Git file system.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's being able to snapshot the context or the current running state of the Git repo, which captures the frozen in time execution.
Mm-hmm.
The pointing to that snapshot of a stuck, where the stuck describes exactly what's wrong with this snapshot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Then the ability to, in isolated branches, make a solution to that stuck, that the thing that's wrong with the snapshot of context. And finally, the ability to ingest, install, or otherwise upgrade the snapshotted context or wherever it moved on to with the fix so that the stuck is resolved in that context. And you just do that forever, and you can go there's, I think, no limit to that.
I can't see a limit either. That's not to say there isn't one, but
the limit's certainly vast, put it that way. Like whether or not there is one, is like, is there an edge of the universe? Well, maybe not, but we know that even within that edge, it's enormous anyway.
Yeah,
and so
what we're just described really is the OODA loop, sort of.
It's a funny kind of OODA loop. It's a technological OODA loop where you could even say that it was happening when the cavemen inferred their tools. It's just that the context snapshot was sloppy. The ability to say what was wrong was lacking things like language and other types of problem. The ability to ingest and upgrade was limited because nothing was uniform, standard, or software based. It was all like, well, you fixed your one spare that's made of this rib or the tusk of a woolly mammoth, but the trouble is we don't have many woolly mammoth tusks lying around because we don't know how to hunt woolly mammoths yet. And so, like, it's the same loop all throughout history, and I think there is a way to reduce that down to something fundamental, but it is
like it, doesn't it?
Right? It's a very universal, it's the way of technology, like, here's my problem, here's the surrounding context, okay, here's me attempting to fix it, here is a fix, okay, now I'm going to change my context with this fix, okay, things are great, thank you, move on.
Yeah, and I think taking step by step, if holding that context and being able to point at that context,
it's key, man. It's absolutely key.
That's the foundation, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I was trying to skin this deer. Okay, right. That was the job I was trying to do. It's like, well, that didn't really work. So you take a step back. Why didn't it work? Oh, you don't have a knife. Oh, okay. So you need a knife. So, okay, I will now go and, flint chip a knife. It's like, okay, give that a go now. Oh, that's a bit better, but it doesn't have a handle. It's not. Sorry, I'm blathering a bit, but it's that there's a fundamental. I'm trying to do something. I sort of did it, but I'd like to be able to either repeat it or improve it.
Right. So I think what you're touching on is that loop fundamentally has always been there throughout all of human history, but it's only in recent time, like when the fidelity of the reproduction of the situation is pristine, that's when you're at maximum speed. Like when I look across GitHub, it's like the majority of issues, they don't have enough information for just any old person to exactly look at the context that it was happening in. You got to know a lot about the system in question to guess at what this person may have experienced because they just wrote it down.
Precisely right? So. And I'll go back way to when I was a teenager, writing Nintendo games, or games for Nintendo. The only way that I could get repeatability of bugs was to actually record the keystrokes from the handset.
Yeah, yeah. And so actually having a model in Artifact that lets us snapshot vast amounts of context in an integral, immutable way.
And then replay,
Yeah,
and then you can comment on the replay. It's like,
that's
oh, it
right.
crashed.
That's right. That's right. And that is a massive time saver because you can't get any better than that. You can't go any faster than exact replay instantaneously for no extra data cost. Like you that's it. Is that part is done.
Or
If
the
you want,
search space reduces to 1
yeah,
with
yeah,
exact
and you
replay.
get beautiful like follow-on effects like regression testing. Like
Yeah.
when you make further things, you can look back on all your stacks and be like, is this still a problem, or did we, and it always reminds me of that the thing with a steam engine, right? Like when you get the precision of the piston fit,
Mm-hmm.
you can get it pretty good, and your steam engine still sucks. But there's a near perfect, the close, when you get to a certain, I don't know where the boundary is, but it's close to perfect. Then suddenly it's this massive torque producing powerhouse, but even slightly off.
Like a
And
phase transition, are you saying?
well,
Sort of thing.
it's more like the losses with each increment in precision of the fit, the gains in power are non-linear. And that's what I'm trying to get at here. Like the higher the fidelity of the context capture, the gains are non-linear, the closer to perfect you get. And we have a model that can approximate perfect. Like, because it's like, well, there was no other information available to you. So for all intents and purposes, that's perfect reproduction. And what I'm trying to say is that the benefits or the gains are highly non-linear. Like it's massively better than
Or like when you're sharpening a chisel, and when you get the edge, my God, you can like shave hairs off your arm.
right. But even
before that,
slightly right.
Yeah.
It's not a chisel really until
Yeah.
you've passed that threshold, and that's philosophically what I'm trying to get at there with the value of this context snapshot, which I don't think we should overlook, because it's, if I look at the competitive platforms or the other platforms that are in the same environment as us, like ChatGPT, it's hard to grab your context and move it around and pull in multiple contexts.
That's my ChatGPT, cut and paste pain for
Yeah.
God knows how long.
Yeah. So portable, instant, unlimited size, broad, being predictable, but also being able to restart execution from that point. Traditional computing execution is lost. Like you just got logs. You can't. But like restartable execution is an insanely gainful tool to have for debugging something, especially being able to hook up the actual debugger itself to the reproduction. So you're like, my app broke, and you're like, okay, and then you hook up your debugger to the replay, and you breakpoint step through your program's code at that point in time. Like, you're not going to get any better than that.
And then it just becomes really obvious. It pops.
It pops, yeah. And so the thing that we're delivering there is this very rapid OODA loop. And we're saying that we don't know where the OODA loop at that rate goes, but we must have it. And once you can improve at that rate, surely that's the place where everyone will congregate. And surely you'll identify the most crucial needs, the most valuable, the most high yield effort to go towards, and you'll start doing that. That's
yes. People can be irrational, but most people as a weight are not irrational, taking as a population, but they sorry, as a aside, the bit I was about to say there is to go back to your question. What what's next to do? Going from context with re- repeatability, so the context can be stored and it can be pointed to and referred to, and then a compilation step, even if that compilation step needs to be manual to start with, is the first stroke of a self-stoking engine. Because once we get that, then we can write everything else that we need.
Mm.
But without that, we don't have. Well, we're stalled.
Stuck.
We're stuck without having any way of pushing.
Right. So when I hit, for example, in bolt.new, I go report issue. Okay, I end up in
Oh, I hate issues. They're just
right, but I was here.
messy,
I was
noisy.
I was in the app, and I go, "Oh, there's a problem." Right now, I filed an issue the other day, and I was reminded of how painful traditional issues are. See, these are not helpful, right? It does not work. I mean, that's really not.
That's you'd fire that guy, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Oh man, these are
Page gone blank.
lazy
What's
fucks. Okay.
E?
Okay. So already, like, we're kind of drowned here.
Yeah, it's unless you're devoting your entire life and soul to going through these things. Too much noise, not enough signal.
Right. But then even even when oh god, and now how do I even find my stuff? Is state buy? Do I say buy? Author.
Okay.
Me. Yeah, okay, found it. Okay, so I was actually trying to be helpful because I want this thing to work, right? But all I had was a screenshot, and I'm like, that's
Right.
really
So
not gonna
that's
give
that's
you
context
much.
poor. Yeah,
Right, I
exactly.
just lost a huge chunk of content. I was sitting here in the app. I could have just, like
Oh,
the
take me through how you did this, because you're trying as an honest actor here to write
an
this
honest
valuable
actor.
bug report.
Well, I clicked report issue,
Yeah.
and then it
Take me
fired up the GitHub issue template, and I linked to my project, and I made it public. But I also just had to take a screenshot because I'm like, well, I can't.
And they couldn't replay it.
No, because what are they gonna,
That's the equivalent back in my computer games time. That's equivalent of taking a screenshot of the crashed screen and
In a
saying,
way, yeah,
"Oh,
yeah, right.
I was trying to make this jump. I think I did this, and this is what happened."
That's
Which is
right.
why I started recording every button press
Yeah,
so that I could just replay the thing.
that's
Because
right.
when it crashed,
That's right.
you could
That's right.
say,
That's right.
"Where did it crash?"
That's right. And so,
Uh,
like, I'm starting to see
yeah,
that a key part of the Dreamcatcher is the ability to do full fidelity context snapshot, roll back, roll forwards. Those are actually blockchain properties. Those ones, but
yeah.
in the improvement loop of technology where context snapshotting is everything, that's pretty valuable.
It's if we had that, we could bootstrap ourselves up pretty quick into all these other
Yeah,
nice
yeah,
use
but
cases.
and it's not just finding problems in our platform. It's like if you make your app on this platform, it comes with that feature built in, and so you can get that boost as well.
Yeah, and because we've now got the benefit of AI, the context, you can start asking it questions and out, saying,
Right.
Well, that didn't work, did it? Can
Right.
you
So like
tell me why?
user, it's like, user heal yourself sort of thing. Like you can
Yeah.
actually fix your own problems, and it might publish to the main platform, and you might
Right.
get paid. Thank
I
you.
I I'm just saying yes, basically. But I was asked by, the um, cancer guys to look over the repo, and they had a problem that they then had to describe over a phone call about, okay, exactly what's your problem. But I just had the repo, which is really quite sparse in
Right.
terms of context. It's like
Right.
I couldn't instruct the
Right.
AI
No.
in anything else
And
on
you're
the
right.
repo.
The AI is
And
not going to save you there.
it's like consider all of this, and it's like it's 3 million tokens. I'm like, oh, okay, that's not gonna work.
Right.
So then I started making compromises. Here's examples of this, or and so on. Started to cut it down. Managed to
Mm.
content it down to a reasonable level, and then needed to go on a long call where actually the problem was not necessarily with the repo or with the code. It was actually with the approach. Um, so context is everything.
Yeah. Repeatable context.
Yeah. And also that allows regression testing, as you mentioned about 7 minutes ago.
Mm.
Because regression testing, or fuck, it used to work and now it doesn't.
Yeah.
Is a bitch. And the other horrible, really gnarly one, I don't know if this fixes this, is intermittent problems.
Yeah. Right.
Works sort of
Yeah.
40% of the time.
Right. But this technique gets super useful once you start running your code in the cloud, because like cloud services are notoriously hard to debug, especially if it's after the fact. You're like, my thing broke, but I'm not sure.
Oh yeah, because it's so obfuscated.
It's so far away as well,
Yeah.
There's another interesting tool that got released today as well that I thought you should know about. Is you can add repos now.
Oh.
So if I go in here and then I go add
Oh damn! I wish I'd known about that
connect
yesterday.
apps. Oh, where is it? Hang on. No, that's right. Deep Research,
Yeah.
GitHub. And then you can pick a repo and it will deep research that repo.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So
Well, it was announced this morning, so I was doing the same thing manually yesterday. It was a pain in the arse.
So here I asked it to go through the artifact repo and check if the principles of Xanadu could be met by the design in the repo.
Uh-huh.
So,
interesting.
yeah.
I've talked about Xanadu for a while.
We got to see that guy before he passes on, because I think that we have some kind of a solution.
Well, we're kind of kindred spirits, aren't we?
Yeah, except those guys, man, I read the story about them. It's like horror of horrors, basically, to be at something for so long.
Yeah, but to be actually quite right as well.
I know that's the problem, right? And they kind of deserve to know that it is possible. I think it's possible, and I think it's possible with this system.
I agree.
So what now, sir? What now?
So,
I'll just hook this up, right?
Yeah, at the top of the recording, you ask a specific question about what to do next. I think, by the sounds of it, saving a context and then being able to point a new thread at that context is the absolute minimum. Because when you point to
right, so like Concat, the Concat tool that we have right now, but it's able to be pointed at anything, and it's sort of in thread, so you don't have to do the copy paste bit, right?
Right, and that feels like the absolute minimum. and the using that, probably quite quickly give it the context of a repo that knows what an app means.
Like a
And
repo
then,
that can run an app, you mean?
yeah, so so you got the context. You can point out the context, and you say, I'm also going to point you at a definition of a app. Create me an app that does the same as this context. That seems the absolute minimum bootstrapping, because you've gone through a process in your meat brain with an AI, and you've reached some kind of conclusion that you're happy with,
Mm.
and now you want that stored so that you don't have to point at the context every time, because a context is like an uncompiled nap. You want the
Right. Yeah, it's
compilation
not
step.
distilled down, right? You want it
Yeah,
focused.
but that distillation is also a context, because you can do it in a thread at the moment. So we don't need the compilation step until we have the ability to point at a context and uh, and then work through, right, I've done this widget thing. Here is what an app means. Create me an app. And then that creates a new context and saying, well, create me an app that creates that nap. And now you've got the compiler. So,
Okay. But that sounds like I don't need to make that for launch. That'll just be a stuck that you'll put up there and point at, and then we'll poke away at solutions for it and then bolt it in as an installable. Right?
which part are you talking about? Yes, if you're
The
meaning
compiler.
the compiler. Yes, the compilers are stuck,
Okay.
but the
Right. Right.
yeah,
So that's like you could say that this part is not a stuck because we don't have a place to put the stucks.
right, yeah,
Right?
yeah,
Okay, so
precisely.
and I've built the back end and now I need to make the front end and now we have a place to put the stucks where to have a stuck also means to have a snapshot of the context
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then a way to accept the upgrade or the patch or the fix, and then that's that's the minimal Dreamcatcher. It's like that's the fucking thing. It's got logins, it's
that,
got some billing so that you can pay for your resource usage and don't send us broke. And then that's it.
yeah. Well,
Everything else.
even those things. While it's just the two of us, we don't even need logins. We don't need billing.
Well,
Those are
we need
stucks
logins because
themselves.
we have to know we have logins anyway.
All right.
It's
Yeah.
there
Okay.
already. Billing seems pretty easy. Um,
That's not stuck though, isn't it?
while it's just us two, yeah, it is. Well, yeah, well, I guess while put it this way, while when the credit card runs out, the system stops and you get on the phone to me and be like, dude, this fucking thing. Then yeah, we can leave off billing and it becomes a stuck.
Yeah. Yeah. But I'm trying
Okay.
to boil it down to the atomic level. And it
All right.
seems that
Well, okay. So
that is
let's
the
go through these
compiler.
icons then, because I think I got all the icons. Home is just like I was just going to pack that with useful shortcuts. Chats, where you chat to an AI, that's the minimum thing, right? Because it's got some context here and you have a
Mm-hmm.
chat about it. And we're putting that in because that's a massive time saver and it's too hard to make stucks manually. Like we need something, right? We need some AI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Chats is just like that's pretty essential to context because that's where we would share with each other what's been going on. Chats are a form of context simply because that's how the AIs have landed for now,
Well,
and that's
the context. Just add to that, the context can I think should be the ability to point to other contexts. It's like I was trying
Yeah,
to build this thing, and I want to
right. Yeah,
point to
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
chat
yeah.
about.
It's part of the yeah. Okay, stucks have to be there because they are the essential markers of what problems are.
Yeah.
Um, I haven't built the stuck data structure yet, but I have sketched it out, and it's very easy compared to Git because it.
Yeah, because it's gonna involve a whole bunch of things in terms of context. Uh,
Well,
it's like
it's easy because the stuck just points at commits and file paths,
yeah, yeah,
and that's
exactly.
it.
And GitHub does the lifting around it.
The
So as long as you
huge,
can, as
oh
long as you can
man,
store
yeah. I
data.
gotta take my hat off to Git. Like it is big, but so elegant in the vastness of what it covers with the minimality of how it goes about it. It's actually pretty breathtaking, really. It's,
Well, only took 30 years to write.
apparently, it took 2 weeks to get the first version.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not sure the first version was as elegant, but I'm not.
Well,
I'm not.
no, it was pretty much the same, and 2 weeks is a bit of a have because Linus and them had a lot of experience with existing systems, and they chatted about how it should work and all that. So when he set to making it, he probably had a great idea in his head of what it had to be that was born of years of suffering, pain, and alternatives.
That sounds very similar to us.
All right, so I got to make the stuck data format in its very crude form, make it point at context. I'm going to add one more icon here that is the context editor, so that allows you to go into this thing, which represents whatever the context is now, and to sort of prune it, pick at it, assemble it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Which is
it's
like a cursor style.
yeah, it's sort of like adding more command line flags to concat. So it's just like
Yeah.
making
Yeah.
the concat tool more refined.
This is what I'm talking about. I'm not
Yeah,
talking about that.
yeah.
Yeah.
I have to leave in repos, but I'm gonna make this be a file tree, so you'll be able to see. You'll have your actor repo at the root, and then all your immediate children will be listed, and then you can browse into their children and their children and their children and so on like that.
Yeah. Okay. A real hack would just be the UI you've got at the moment, and just say,
No, well,
children of parent
yeah,
of
what are you trying to achieve by that reduction there?
only to focus down on the atomic stuck thing, because that feels like a stuck. Putting it into a tree feels like
It's already under the hood. It's already a tree. This flat thing is a distortion on what the underlying data structure is.
all right. Okay. All right. Yeah.
So some kind of repo widget, a way to clone from GitHub, a way to push and pull from GitHub, because
Yeah.
that lets us sort of reach out into the world and grab things that are already made, which is essential. Connect is where you join a repo that you don't have control over. Now that's not strictly needed for the stuck loop, but that is needed for the CRM. And you can I'll hear out an alternate opinion, but I do feel like I should deliver that CRM still. Is that still
What, the trucking or
the trucking
CRM?
one?
Oh, yes.
Absolutely, right? Like I feel like
Oh,
that's
yeah, without question. Without
okay,
question.
without question, right? So we need Connect. Connect is probably it's useful to have for us. It's essential for the CRM. It's kind of already halfway in there. Naps, I don't know how to do naps exactly, so I'll just put a starter for 10 in there. I haven't got the back end going for it yet. So that's sort of a bit of a...
By back end, you mean
the ability to run...
Explore,
Sorry?
or Oh, you mean point out an app as part
Well,
of
run a
the
nap.
context?
So, because the way I made the whole thing is made as naps already, but I
Yes.
haven't made an example of a third party nap being run. So I'm pretty sure I'll muddle it, figure my way through it because everything Artifact
Uh,
itself was built as naps.
yeah. Again, back of my head, Jiminy Cricket is saying, is there any change to the back end system in order to do that?
Yeah, there is, but I built stubs. So,
Right. Okay. So there's still some back end stuff.
yeah, so that's not really a nap. That's not really a stuck
No, no. This the
thing because without that, you can't ingest the fix. But I suppose you could ingest the fix if it was just like some conventional code that was pushed to GitHub that was then redeployed and now the thing's done. But it's not quite the same.
yeah.
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 Anyway,
Okay.
so that's an area of backend work. I'm fairly sure that that's straightforward because I've thought about it a lot. But that's there. Files, easy, so easy, easiest thing ever. Um, Innovations, we've spoken about the issues there. I got to make a data structure, which I think is light, and then attach the context window editor to it, which is
Yep.
fine.
Yep.
Um, Settings, so that's like remotes is already in there. That's for like how to where's the other repos that you're pushing and pulling. You can't push and pull to anything on our own platform, which is a weakness, but that's a stuck to fix.
Uh huh. Yep.
Permissions is gonna be just super crude. It's either you're in or you're out.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
and again, the naps, not quite sure how the installation of naps goes or is managed. I'll chat
I
to
think
Ben about that.
yeah, we kind of went through some quite useful stuff on that in the last call, in terms of exposing naps to other naps.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm still not 100% clear on how to implement that. So
okay.
I can do all these other bits without that, and I can poke away at that, and then we'll just have to talk more about it, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and then account, well, that's, perfectly fine. We don't need to share profiles or do any of that because that's just extra functionality that can be stuck in.
Yeah. And there's
Uh,
another stuck as well about having as many personalities as you want,
yep, yep,
which sounds very much like a stuck.
yep. So really, the only unknown bits are the installation of naps on a repo.
Which is the only back end lifting piece.
And that's ignoring the repeatability of the execution. So, um, it might it. I don't think it matters so much for AI based things because they just read in the message thread, but for conventional code that will matter.
Yeah,
Uh,
one of the first stocks I'm going to put up is the use of something like Monte Carlo, one of my favorites. I just keep on banging on about in order to get repeatability at a probability.
Repeatability for probability. Yeah, yeah, sure. All right, and then yeah, even if I didn't have genuine naps, but just had enough inbuilt hard coded functionality that we could use the system to receive upgrades when stucks are solved, even that's probably enough to then make the
Yeah,
nap thing be a stuck and then solve that. So
yeah,
yeah, um,
yeah. So I think we've boiled the frog down to its skeleton.
yep,
And it's the skeleton that we're left with.
yeah, because the curly bit in here is how do you deal with agents and how do you debug them, trace them,
Uh,
arrange them.
That's why you need to move as soon as you talk to agents. Yeah, by which more specifically I'm meaning natural language, you have to deal with probabilities because
No, I wasn't
it
meaning that
becomes
as a like. That's to do with reliability and functionality. I'm talking about orchestration, presentation.
oh
Um,
right.
how
Talk
to
about
where do I
presentation.
go in this interface to see agents? How do I talk to a specific one? How do I see who it has talked to? How do I see its history, set its permissions, revoke them, all that? So
I think
that is
that
going to be a
is
curly one,
that I've got some ideas about that. Mostly dealt with how other people are dealing with it. Um,
right?
so this is there's a lot of thought being put in by others around how to display interactions with agentic.
Oh, okay. Can you teach
Um,
me that?
yeah, sure.
How will you?
I'll ping. Well, let's leave that for the next one because
Okay.
um, it's
Oh yeah,
getting
it's
quite
late
late
here.
here. I need to get
Yeah.
the dogs up, but I can take you through that.
Okay. Sounds good.
Essentially, people seem to be honing in on boxes with links, and then when you run it, you can stop it at any point, and then say, okay, what's the state at this point?
Mm.
Um, but that there's been a lot of other people thinking that actually the solution to using AI is effectively taking boxes of agents and then um, basically doing I/O and some logic around that I/O.
All right. Well, the way I think it goes is it's a flowchart where each step in the flowchart is an email inbox, which is just input messages and output messages, and that's
Yep. The only thing I would add on to that is some kind of trigger uh, about whether to consider it or not.
isn't that just another message, a special system level message?
I'd say you'd probably embed that in the message saying this agent has thought about this and it is that certain about it. Or it has burned these many tokens, or
Right, but that's just the context of the message, right? You're just pointing at
it is effectively,
the context
yeah,
of the message, right? Because being able to
boxes
pass,
with IO. Yeah.
right? So in our system here, to do that, we'd need a little graphical workflow editor, basically a swim lane diagram of some kind, and then the agent represents a NAP that's put at a workstation, and their inbox and the permissions on that inbox, like who they can talk to and all that, is all just part of the configuration of their workstation or their entry point, their jack in the wall. And then a human can become that location if you want. You can replay it, roll forwards, you
Right.
can train
Right.
off it,
Exactly.
all that, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And roll back to our kind of rule of thumb. If you can't reproduce the cycle, albeit very slowly, with people moving pieces of paper to each other with an infinite number of people, then it's not going to work.
Okay, let me just take a quick note there. Um, oh, so we kind of already have that. Sorry. We actually already have that. Those were called actions. And so if the workstation or the node that the agent is placed at is a stack of incoming actions, and the agent can also send actions, and the permissions govern which other parts in the diagram the communications are allowed to flow on, then that's the NAP that's how you make a NAP be an agent, if it can receive these messages.
Absolutely, precisely. And in a kind of bungled way, this is what we're talking about when an agent should be able to talk to another agent, tell another agent to do something and get response, or pass on the baton for that agent.
Right. And then the ultimate, when we know that our job is done in terms of providing the infrastructure for that service, is when one of those agents can look at the topography of the agents and make modifications based on the performance of the graph as a whole, experiment with different configs, different models, different this and that. And so the workflow sort of self-organizes to be better at doing its whatever its task was. I think that's when we're done.
Yes, and that is where we are still different from these other platforms, which requires someone to go in and stick these agents in, say what the workflow is, they run the workflow, they can see information at each point, and they see the output.
Yeah.
But then it's really brittle.
Right, and I think the key bottleneck there is you can't haul in all the context and get that processed by a bot. Like that's right. That's the sticking point.
Yeah, that's why it's brittle, because it's like, that's not what I expecting. It's like, okay, so now I'm going to have to go in with my meat brain and move these boxes around or reprompt to try and own it. But then the explosion of possibilities is added to by not every run is exactly the same and so on. So every platform that I've been messing around with has this same problem. It's requiring the human to actually be God, as opposed to showing, and even discussing amongst itself, hey, that's not quite right. And one run from another is completely distinct. So you can't say,
it lost its brain.
I ran it 10 times and I got the right answer 4 times and the wrong answer 6 times. Well, guys, what's going on? That goes back to the meat brain at the moment in every platform I've been checking out. It always comes back to the meat brain, which is why there's now a new job title called a prompt engineer, whatever that is. It didn't exist 2 years ago. So, okay.
Right, and so if you can, if the machine can observe the context of its own self, it can have a form of self-awareness and self-prompting or self-improvement.
It's that meta. It's like, take a step back. The reason I can't gut this deer is because my knife isn't a knife; it's a brick.
And
I
so,
need to go and build a knife. And then come back
in
and try
programming languages, that's usually added a bit later on because it's hard to do, and that's called usually the reflection API, where you're in the program and you can reflect upon who called me, what object am I, what is my location in the file system, like it's like a way to be aware of your own position.
Yes.
And that's
and that's the whole point of the context. Context isn't is nothing without
because then we can haul in the whole app as a stack where someone's like subtly like, I sort of wanted it to kind of maybe do this, and you're like, the whole context is just like dragged in, and then people can work on it and think on it any way they like.
But also, because we've got context as an object, then you can say, it's working last week. Now it's not
Right,
working.
right. It's a snapshot. It's not. What's the word for it when it's not a snapshot? Like right now in a computer program, the context is like ephemeral, or it's not locked, or it's indeterminate. You know, it's not treated
Yeah.
as a thing, right? It's just
Isn't
the
it? It's just a
emergence or the
state, isn't it?
consequence.
It's just we're talking about
It's not even
reference.
state. It's uncaptured state. It's unexpressed or you can't grab it. You can't put a handle on it. It's unknowable because you can't. It's unseeable. You can't like it's like you can't see your own elbow, sort of thing. You don't have a mirror.
Uh, yeah, I see what you're getting about. I was about to say no, it's not unknowable. It's just nobody looks generally at that. But uh, mirror it is it's
Right?
to
Like
be able to see.
until humans had a mirror, you would have
Yeah.
never seen your own face except in like the rippling of a river or a pond where it always shimmered and you kind of, you would never have seen your actual face.
There's I'm remembering a line from Harry Burns. Is it, oh, what gift the God to give us to see ourselves as others see us? It's to be able to see yourself.
Right. And that's a core feature. So, um okay, so that's figured out where agents are. We already have the plumbing. It's just a way of sort of packaging and arranging it.
But we've also boiled the frog down to, right, if we get that ability to context as a thing that you can
Context is
refer
a
to,
thing. Yep.
then
Yep.
we can get to that using that bootstrap up to a renderer down to naps. And all naps are doing is effectively compiling, just making it more efficient. And by cross-referencing, you can go from that up to any kind of unit testing naps or any specific naps for your application. I think that I really, really think that that freezing of the context and being able to refer to that context
Mm.
is
It's
a
critical.
thing.
It's critical.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I
Right.
think that's everything.
I've got lots of pings going on in the background here, so
All right. I'll stop the recording and I will begin